Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Point of View. I am so thankful to be here today, for God has blessed me to see another day. Bless you to see another day, to be here today with me. It is such a wonderful day. Today is Thursday. It is the 6th of June in the year 2024. And I am just delighted, grateful, grateful, grateful. Dear God, as I sit before you to speak, I pray to you that my soul you will keep. And if I should die before I finish, I pray to you, dear God, in the name of Jesus, that any outstanding sins will be forgiven. Amen. Today, we're talking about the underdog syndrome. The underdog syndrome. Why do some people, I didn't mean to keep that up there, that about the flunkies. For others, I had changed that. Don't underestimate the underdog. Going to talk about the pros and the cons. Don't underestimate the underdog. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons. So I did change that. I, I most certainly did. But let me go back and do that and get that up here. Get that. Okay. Got it right this time. Okay, I had it, but I had not changed it on there. So we are talking about the underdog. And don't underestimate the underdog. I'm telling you, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. That is supposed to be changed. All right, I'm going to get right into it, right into our topic today, underdog. What is the underdog syndrome? What is the underdog syndrome? The underdog syndrome is a psychological phenomenon where a person sees themselves as an underdog or long shot. Even if they succeed, they never feel deserving of success and always feel like they need to overcome something. This can lead to self-sabotage and burnout, ending careers and killing creative impulses. By casting themselves as a perpetual underdog, people are surreptitiously, subconsciously giving themselves permission to fail. Talking about the underdog. The underdog, and there are so many things, so don't underestimate the underdog. Don't do that. You might just be disappointed. If you think you can count the underdog out, you have to be really, really careful. Okay, so we're going to go into I'm in psychology today. I need to do some corrections here. I'm in psychology today, and I'm on two sites that I have not been on before. So I am going to enjoy that. So your day, okay. The underdog syndrome. And this is very interesting. And I was asking God, what should I talk about? Would you give me something to talk about? It's something that's going to be very, very interesting and that will help others. And so he has done that. Okay, I'm going to go into my topics now. The underdog syndrome, and this is neuralword.com. This is where I am. Neural, Neural word.com. The underdog syndrome, decoding the true significance of being labeled an underdog. And this was I published on the 24th of December in 2023. Every now and then we come across stories of individuals or teams who rise above all odds and surpass expectations. So these are the underdogs. Those who start with apparent disadvantages but manage to triumph in the end. Have you ever heard of that? Do you know anybody that you would have labeled an underdog? Thought I heard somebody screaming outside. So these are underdogs. Those who start with apparent disadvantage. Hold on, please. Somebody's screaming. Hold on. Oh my goodness. Nicholas. Nicholas. Somebody. The lady said they're kidnapping her baby. Get the license plate. Out here, they might have already taken out. She's screaming. Don't say anything. Just look and see if you can see the car. You see it? Somebody's kidnapping somebody's baby out here. She's just screaming. Oh my God. Oh, Lord God. Oh, Lord, in the name of Jesus, help, 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 help. Help in the name of Jesus. I didn't get the license plate, so Nicholas going to see if he can get the license plate. Okay. I'm going to go on with the show, but I want you to be praying for her. Okay. Talking about the underdog. Talking about the underdog. Every now and then, I'm going to start at the beginning. This is neuralword.com. Neuralword.com. Every now and then, we come across stories of individuals or teams who use above all odds and surpass expectations. These are underdogs, those who start with apparent disadvantages but manage to triumph in the end. The underdog syndrome is a fascinating topic that piques our curiosity about how such individuals or groups achieve the extraordinary. In this article, we aim to decode the true significance of being labeled an underdog. And so I'm settling down now. But that's disturbing to me. But we know not to get in the middle of people's rifts. So that's why we have the authorities to contact. So what is the underdog syndrome? The underdog syndrome refers to the condition where a person or a group of expected, excuse me, the underdog syndrome refers to the condition where a person or a group is expected to lose or face significant challenges due to various factors such as lack of resources, experience, or reputation. So it is a label that often carries negative connotations and belittles their chances of success. However, it is precisely the label that fuels the underdog's determination and resilience. Didn't I say, don't underestimate the underdog? So understanding the power of the underdog. Understanding the power of the underdog. Thank you for being with me today. Understanding the power of the underdog. Despite society's prejudice against underdogs, There's a unique power of being labeled as one. The underdog's disadvantaged position allows them to fly under the radar, escaping the intense scrutiny faced by favorites or established entities. This freedom from constant pressure and expectations provides an excellent opportunity for the underdog to focus on their strengths and strategies, leading to innovative and often unexpected results. Talking about that, don't underestimate the underdog. As no, we can't do that. All right. Additionally, the underdog syndrome fuels a burning desire with individuals or teams to prove themselves. It creates many times a burning desire because there are some people, and you can hear some people say, oh, they're not going to do anything. No, they're going to lose. You've heard of people making jokes of people and teams and things like that because they just feel that, oh, they haven't ever won, they can't win, they want their they won't win. But hey, don't underestimate the underdogs now. The underdog's disadvantaged position allows them to fly under the radar, escaping the intense pressure and expectations, the, the intense scrutiny faced by favorites or established entities. So, this freedom from the constant pressure and expectations provides an excellent opportunity for the underdog to focus on their strengths and strategies, leading to innovative and often unexpected results. Additionally, the underdog syndrome fuels a burning desire within individuals or teams to prove themselves. So, being underestimated can serve as a catalyst for motivation, for determination, and for hard work. You hear that? Being underestimated can serve as a catalyst for motivation, determination, and hard work. So even if you are considered the underdog, and even you might not have confidence, you might not think you can beat this team or you can succeed at this or that, don't underestimate yourself. Let that be a catalyst for your motivation, for your determination, and then inspire you to work harder. Okay? The label of an underdog becomes a driving force that pushes these individuals to achieve greatness against all odds. My goodness. Then we go to lessons learned from the underdog phenomenon. Lessons learned from the underdog phenomenon. And we're in neuralword.com. The underdog syndrome teaches us valuable lessons about perseverance, about resilience, and about the potential for human achievement. By analyzing successful underdog stories, we can identify key factors that contribute to their triumphs. Number one, strong belief, okay? Underdogs possess an unshakable belief in themselves and their abilities. This unwavering self-confidence allows them to stay focused amidst all skepticism, okay? The strong belief. So these are the valuable lessons about perseverance and resilience and potential for human achievement. And so we're analyzing successful underdog stories, and we can identify here the key factors. That's what we're doing, the key factors that contribute to the underdog success. Number one, we just finished that, strong belief. Number two, adaptability. Adaptability, unable to rely on traditional or established methods. Underdogs are forced to think outside the box and find innovative approaches to overcome challenges. Three, hard work and discipline. Underdogs understand that success does not come easy. They consistently put in the effort, continually improve, and never shy away from going the extra mile. 4. Mental resilience. Overcoming adversity requires mental toughness. Underdogs often develop this resilience by facing constant setbacks and rejection, bouncing back stronger each time. Talking about the underdog syndrome. Don't underestimate the underdog, okay? Shifting the underdog mindset. We're going to shift the underdog mindset. While the underdog syndrome can be empowering, it is crucial not let this label define one's self-worth or capabilities. Underdogs should strive to shift their mindset from solely relying on proving others wrong to focusing on personal growth and development. By doing so, underdogs can rise above the limitations imposed by society and reach their full potential. Being labeled an underdog should be seen as an opportunity rather than a disadvantage. How about that? Being labeled an underdog should be seen as an opportunity rather than a disadvantage. The underdog syndrome is a powerful motivator that drives individuals and teams to achieve greatness against all odds. So, by analyzing underdog stories, we can gain insights into the traits and behaviors that lead to their successes. Ultimately, the underdog phenomenon reminds us that our potential to achievement knows no boundaries as long as we have the determination, as long as we have the belief, and as long as we have resilience to overcome challenges. My goodness, this is a great article. And like I said, this is neuralword.com. Neuralword.com. So now we're going to go over to Psychology Today. Psychology Today. And it's by Anthony C. Lopez, PhD. Psychology of the Underdog. Why the Weak, WEAK, sometimes win and the strong never learn. And this was published March 13th, 2019. It might interest you to know that underdogs are doing increasingly well in the world. You hear that? Underdogs are doing increasingly well in the world. A study by Ivan Ereguin Toft shows that in the last 200 years, weak actors prevail about 30% of the time in international conflicts, and this frequency seems to be steadily increasing. More on this, and he's going to have more on this in a future post. So generally speaking, individuals or groups who are at a disadvantage, whether measured in the form of lack of resources or allies, are many times able to prevail against overwhelming adversities. And I was saying this is by Anthony C. Lopez, PhD, Psychology Today. Okay. Now, can science explain the counterintuitive and dramatic puzzle of the underdog victory? Can it explain it? All right. Before you get too excited, the takeaway here is not that brute power doesn't matter. The desire for more power, that means physical, financial, military, etc., exists quite simply because, well, power really is useful. And we know that power really is useful. Now, the Athenians understood this during the Peloponnesian War, when they reminded the weaker Melians that the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. So, throughout the animal kingdom, as well as in our own species, formidability, or what some ethologists refer to as resource holding potential, translates rather directly into a greater probability of victory in contests between individuals and groups. Now, unsurprisingly, individuals with more power have a greater sense of entitlement and are angrier when they don't get their way. In chimpanzees, the best predictor of both the likelihood of conflict and its outcome is relative size. Quite simply, crude and conventional indices of power matter and probably always will because they are useful. They are useful. So we must accept two realities. We're talking about the underdog syndrome. We must accept two realities. Let's see what these realities are. On the one hand, power matters because it is a timeless and reliable instrument that largely shapes contest outcomes. On the other hand, the weak have a rather stubborn tendency to triumph despite the odds against them. So, what determines whether power prevails or weakness overcomes? What determines this? This is interesting, very interesting. Malcolm Gladwell tries to address just this question in his book, David and Goliath, although Gladwell offers many compelling factors that he believes explain the strength of the weak and the weakness of the strong. There is a common denominator that really stands out, yet surprisingly receives not a single mention in the book. This is what behavioral scientists call theory of mind, which refers to an individual's capacity to infer the mental states of others. So, individuals with damage to parts of the brain known to be responsible for this capacity exhibit an inability to understand the effects of their behavior on others and struggle with perspective taking, okay? With perspective taking. So I'm going to go back and read that again because this is very important. I want to do this section here. This is what behavioral scientists call an theory of mind, which refers to an individual's capacity to infer the mental states of others. Individuals with damage to parts of the brain known to be responsible for this capacity exhibit an inability to understand the effects of their behavior on others and struggle with perspective taking. Okay, so how does this relate to our puzzle? Underdogs win not because they are smarter than their adversary, but because they understand their adversary better than their stronger adversary understands them. How about that? That is so neat. Thank you so much. Talking about the underdog syndrome. David and Goliath spends most of his pages describing the conditions that facilitate uncommon endurance and guile among the weak and disadvantaged. These factors have already been discussed in many useful reviews and include uncommon resolve, adaptability, creativity, experience with great loss, so-called desirable disadvantage, and the mere fact that underdogs often fight for their life while the privileged typically have less at stake. We know the story of David and Goliath. We know that story. Evolutionary biologists will recognize this as a familiar life dinner principle that occurs between predator and prey. However, the book spends relatively less time explaining why the powerful are so often duped and blindsided by the tenacious. Now, this leads to a new puzzle. Why is it so hard for the powerful to learn this lesson and stop getting duped? Is there something about being powerful that makes you uh, irredeemably dense? Oh, this is super, isn't it? So consider again that in international relations, weak actors have prevailed against stronger adversaries about 30% of the time. So even though it seems remarkable that the weak can prevail over the strong 30% of the time, that's still a 70% failure rate. So, putting aside things like ideology and principle for the moment, if all we care about is winning, then being the underdog really doesn't seem all that attractive. So, Gladwell makes the point repeatedly that although all of the subjects he interviewed understood that adversity made them stronger, almost none would wish their adversity on others. So that's a curious paradox, isn't it? So yet the paradox fades if we recognize that underdogs can win, but often don't. Power remains the winning bet. My goodness. All of this suggests that there is a perennial tug of war between the powerful and the weak, with the cards stacked ever in favor of the former. So the problem is that being powerful is often such a good bet that it actually pays not to invest in a little strategic empathy. It's very costly if you think about it. It is a mismanagement of this trade-off by the powerful that leaves open a small but dramatic window for those who possess just the right blend of cunning and commitment to bring down their Goliath. So why don't the powerful learn? The answer is that most of the time they don't have to. And that's the truth. They said like 30% uh, persevere over the strong, but then there's still 70% failure. But that is still good, isn't it? So Anthony Lopez, PhD, is Associate Professor of Political Psychology at Washington State University. At least at the time this was written, he was, and also serves as politics editor at the Evolution Institute. That is so good. And I want to go back here and see if I see the author of um, the first one that I published. I don't see the author's name, but we know that it's neuralword.com. Now I'm going to go and talk about 9 underdogs. 9 underdogs that, that became successful against all odds. 9 underdogs. Thank you so much for being here. So this site is motivateamazebegreat.com. motivateamazebegreat.com. 9 underdogs that became successful against all odds. And this is 2024. 2024. 9 underdogs. So from 0 to 0, that sums up the inspirational life stories of these individuals. From 0 to 0. How about that? Sums it up. So we're talking about 9 underdogs who became successful against all odds. Success doesn't come easy. It requires a lot of effort, and dedication, For these people, that wasn't what was lacking, but rather the necessary recognition. It eventually came when nobody was expecting or giving them the necessary credit. That's why we call them underdogs. No one was expecting them to succeed because all odds were against them, but they didn't care. They carried on with their vision regardless of what the world thought. So this just shows us that anyone can do it if they believe it and work hard for it, not giving up. Success will come. So get motivated with the life examples of these successful and known people that one day were underdogs destined to fail. So here we go. And remember in that topic, don't underestimate the underdog. Okay? The underdogs that became successful against all odds. Our first one listed here is J.K. Rowling's. We've heard that name. You know about the Harry Potter series. So lost her mother to multiple sclerosis, went from marriage to a miscarriage to rumors of domestic abuse, finally to signing the divorce and being a single mother. She was jobless, diagnosed with depression, and contemplating suicide. She was still rejected by 12 publishers, and it took a year for someone to agree to publish the first Harry Potter book. And we know how successful that series of books is, don't we? Here's Gardner. Chris Gardner. Chris Gardner. The manager who hired him got fired. His wife let, left him and took his son. Gardner went to prison for not paying parking tickets. He never gave up. He got his son back. They were homeless while he was a trainee and newly employed until he started to make money. He became a stockbroker and entrepreneur and got rich. Now he's a public speaker also. My goodness. And I think this, what is that movie that Will Smith and his son played in? Oh my goodness. What is that movie? Because that movie makes me cry, especially when I see him and his son walking down the street and he got tears in his eyes. But look at him now, this man. Oh my, this is Chris Gardner. So now, Colonel Sanders. He took his chances with a chicken recipe his friends liked at 65 years old. He traveled from state to state trying to sell his idea to local restaurants, but they only took denial after denial. He only took denial after denial. We're talking about 9 underdogs who were successful. Legend has it he was rejected 1,009 times until he got his first yes. So Kentucky Fried Chicken was born and later came the world famous franchise. Then we have Ralph Lauren. We've heard of Ralph Lauren, designer. Early life was a struggle with poverty. He was frequently bullied by other children. He tried to mentally escape his world by going to the movie theater and falling in love with Hollywood. When he was older, he quit college to work. He was always connected to fashion, working for manufacturers. He became a creator, designing ties. When he got his own business, those ties became a success, and the rest was his story. Then we have Sylvester Stallone. We know who he is, don't we? Once was a struggling script writer, failed actor. He struggled to make money. His wife left him. He was so broke that he even sold his dog to have money to live. One day, the Rocky script got accepted, but they didn't accept him as an actor. But he was Rocky, and Rocky was an underdog story that got successful. The rest of you know, and the legend was born. My goodness. Then we have Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln. Way before presidency, Lincoln tried to succeed in business with two ventures with no success. When he was about to get married, his fiancee died. He lost 8 times in different elections. Meanwhile, he had a nervous breakdown. Years later, after all this trauma, he became the President of the United States in 1860 against all odds. My. Then there's Buster Douglas. We've heard of him also. This was the man who defeated Mike Tyson when Mike was Iron Mike Tyson. Nobody could beat Tyson as he never got knocked out. A really nightmare to any fighter. Okay? It's a real nightmare to get knocked out. Buster Douglas lost his mother days before the fight. Nobody thought he could beat Mike Tyson, but he eventually got the motivation to do so. Then we have Dr. Dre on here. From the ghetto to becoming the first hip-hop billionaire, Dr. Dre was raised in Compton, surrounded by gang violence. His early career as a musician was hard, being constantly broke and with violence just around the corner. He went from an underdog artist to having his own record label and a headphones brand. Oh yes, Walt Disney, Mickey Mouse, okay? Experienced failure after failure. His first studio went bankrupt, his first successful creation, Oswald the Rabbit, was legally taken from him. My goodness. Mickey Mouse was rejected for distribution by big companies. When Snow White was done, it was doomed to failure by critics. He was even criticized by his own animation staff. He had a dream that most criticized and didn't believe. Most people criticized his dream and did not believe in it. And what a dream that became reality against all odds. That's 9 people who beat the odds, who came up from being the underdog to the successor. Isn't that wonderful? So I want to go back again and tell you what an underdog is. An underdog is. And so just because you consider yourself, or people consider you an underdog, you don't have to be a failure. Underdog syndrome is a psychological phenomenon where a person sees themselves as an underdog or long shot. Even if they succeed, they never feel deserving of success and always feel like they need to overcome something. This can lead to self-sabotage and burnout, ending careers and killing creative impulses. By casting themselves as a perpetual underdog, people are surreptitiously, subconsciously giving themselves permission to fail. That's what an underdog is. So we have had quite a great talk today about the underdog syndrome. And I want to tell you, I've said this before and I say it over and over because I do give God credit and I believe there is an almighty God. Because I asked him today, as I do other days all the time, I ask him to give me what to talk about. And underdog syndrome came into my mind. I never heard it before. I don't ever remember hearing the phrase underdog syndrome, but that's what he gave me. I pulled it up and it came up, underdog syndrome. And I am so thankful to God. And so here is a piece in Psychology Today that asks a question, why do we love underdog stories? And Psychology Today is going to weigh in on this. Why do we love underdog stories? Matt Johnson, PhD, Mind, Brain, and Value. Why do we love underdog stories? And psychologists weighing in, rags to riches has a special place in the human psyche. But why? 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 So Ekua Hagen reviewed this in January 28, 2021. Imagine being so down on your luck that you had to sell your dog just to make ends meet. Remember, we just heard that. He had to sell his dog just to eat. Now let me go back here and go to this where it just told us this. Who was that that sold his dog? Sold his dog. Let me see. I just read that here. It might go into it on that. Okay, it wasn't Kentucky. Was it Ralph Lauren? Hollywood? Okay, here's Sylvester Stallone. His Underdog story. And yes, this is Sylvester Stallone. It said that he struggled to make money. His wife left him. He was so broke that he even sold his dog to have money. So we have that. So let's get on over here. The Underdog. Why do we like to hear about hear the Underdog uh, stories? It makes us feel good, and to me, it makes me know that I can make it no matter what. So imagine being so down on your luck that you had to sell your dog just to make ends meet. Before winning 3 out of 9 Oscar nominations and writing the Rocky script in days, Sylvester Stallone did just that. When offered $360,000 for the script with the condition he wouldn't star as Rocky, Stallone stood firm even with only $106 in the bank. Wow. Stallone's persistence and determination paid off. We can't help but love a good underdog story, whether in the movies or in business or in life. All right, now the power of the underdog story has strong roots in the consumer world. Before J.K. Rowling became the first author to earn a net worth of $1 billion, her Harry Potter pitch was rejected 12 times. Born into poverty, Oprah Winfrey became the first African American billionaire in 2003 without ever declaring bankruptcy, Unlike its U.S. competitors, barely 2 decades old Tesla surpasses century-old General Motors as the most valuable U.S. automaker. Okay, let me go back. Without ever declaring bankruptcy, unlike its U.S. competitors, barely 2 decades old, Tesla surpasses century-old General Motors as the most valuable U.S. automaker. Brands have become masters in storytelling and using the mighty us against the world tale in the way they market and build a following. Whether it's incorporated into the product, brand, or the founder themselves, the underdog effect has become an effective tool in shaping consumer perception. An effective tool. You hear that? So to understand the psychology behind why we admire underdogs and how brands successfully use the narrative to influence consumer behavior, let's dive into the science and business of the underdog. This is super. The psychology of the underdog effect. Brands in the business of telling their origin story know the basics of human nature. If there's one thing we've learned and naturally passed down to future generations from our ancestors. It's our love for gossiping and telling stories. Thank you for being with me. But why are we so drawn to brands that use underdog stories specifically? Why are we drawn to them? So when we are led to believe that a company succeeded against external disadvantages like an economic recession for instance, we identify with the situation. The more we identify and internalize the gravity of the story, the more we root for it. There's evidence indicating that brands with an underdog story can increase the intention to purchase and influence brand loyalty. And what's even more interesting, this effect is more pronounced to consumers who personally identify as underdogs, and that's for real. So it's no surprise that companies like Nantucket Nectars famously describe their humble origins as starting out with a blender and a dream. American beer, Samuel Adams, despite being a large, established name, constantly compares itself to the behemoths of Budweiser and Coors, neglecting the fact they are all massive in comparison to craft breweries. Brands love the tales of humble beginnings because we're drawn to them. Why so? When you add movies, literature, and the American dream to the mix, the plot thickens. Yes, it does. Don't underestimate the underdog now. We're talking about the underdog syndrome. The underdog story is one of the most classic storylines with a universal appeal, reliably driving feelings of empathy. They tap into the qualities we like best about ourselves and find most admirable in others. We love underdog stories because we feel like they need us. It creates that gravitational bond between us and the underdog because we love to feel needed as social creatures. So, studies have shown that the literal act of witnessing an underdog story gives us hope. If we walk out of the cinema after watching classic underdog tales like Rocky, Karate Kid, or The Pursuit of Happiness, that's it. That movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, where the man was homeless with his child there for a while, but now he's filthy rich, okay? As we say, the impact of experiencing the protagonist's ascendance fills us with a newfound sense of hope. And this isn't a fleeting feeling. We carry this feeling with us several days after it's over. And we really, really, really do. We really do. So the underdog story is also deeply rooted in the American dream. Economically or socially, moving up in the world is paramount in the context of American culture. It's not just where you wind up, but how far you climbed to get there. And the beauty of the underdog story is that its overall success will always be judged relatively to the starting point. Okay? So, in short, there is no rags to riches story if it doesn't start in the rags. So, similarly, when there's an underdog, there must always be a top dog. Let's look at how this plays out in business, particularly in technology. Oh, yes. Here we go. The psychology of the underdog effect in business. When there's a David, a Goliath naturally follows. For Tesla, Goliath was the big bad auto industry. For Apple, it was the clunky, unfriendly interface and design. For Airbnb, it was the expensive, old-fashioned hotel industry. Startups in the tech industry have a historical fondness for the underdog lore, a field dominated by nerds, geeks, and misfits traditionally counted out picked on and doubted, has risen to the occasion. Despite being arguably the most dominant industry in the global economy, tech companies still go to great lengths to preserve and emphasize their underdog status. So when you think of the success of Apple, one of the only $2 trillion companies in the history of the word underdog is one of the last words that come to mind. One of the last words that come to mind. Amazon, the other $1 trillion company with a market cap larger than the GDP of most countries, is also fond of its humble beginnings. In fact, its CTO, Werner Vogels, still considers it a startup, even with 750,000 employees worldwide. Amazon founder and the world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, famously created a makeshift desk by hammering four legs into a wooden door back when he was just starting in 1994, and still keeps the famous door desk in his office today. So if there's one thing Bezos has in common, aside from billions of dollars in net worth, with many tech founders, it's the garage. Talking about the underdog, okay? The startup garage is a symbol of the underdog nature of the tech industries, synonymous with the underdog tenacity. In 2016, Business Insider still lists HP. 2016, Business Insider still lists HP, Google, and Steve Jobs' garages as some of the 19 Silicon Valley landmarks you must visit on your next trip, alongside museums and tech headquarters. Today, HP still emphasizes its humble beginnings, deeming its garage the birthplace of Silicon Valley. It's not just the startup garage that has yet to lose its charm. Even when a business outlives its founder, the underdog story remains too woven into the company's culture. It remains woven into the company's culture. They never lose that underdog story. At the Milwaukee-based insurance giant Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance, for instance, employees still learn about a train accident that occurred near Johnson Creek, Wisconsin in 1859, shortly after the company was founded. 14 people were killed, including two Northwestern Mutual policy holders whose claims totaled $3,500. The young company had only $2,000 on hand, but its leaders took out loans to pay the claims in full immediately. Whether they tell it or not, every founder is a story. Yes, it is. Every founder is a story. Now we go to the psychology of underdog CEOs. The psychology of underdog CEOs. Remember, we are not to underestimate the underdog. And then if you consider yourself an underdog, don't consider yourself a failure. Never stop trying, because they don't look for you or expect you to come out on top. But oh yes, you can do it. So many brands add a hint of narrative to their founder story, but brands who bring their A game tell an underdog story. Underdog founder stories are so compelling that several companies have leveraged them. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Before the age of 17, Johnson was arrested multiple times for fighting, for theft, and check fraud. Now he's one of the highest grossing actors of his generation, with a net worth of $320 million. Calling back to his roots, he named his production company Seven Bucks Productions because he only had $7 to his name at his lowest point. That's a successful underdog founder story in constant action, inspiring and winning the hearts of many. Wow. Sir Richard Branson, Perhaps the best example of an underdog CEO is Branson. He bounced around between schools for low grades. Diagnosed with dyslexia, he couldn't read at the age of 11. On his final day of school, his headmaster reportedly told him that he would either end up in prison or become a millionaire. For many years, it looked certain that it would be the former, but the rest is his story. Oh, yes, it is. So, through it all, his launching of Virgin Records was a success. Branson valued over at over $4 billion is one of the most recognizable business celebrities in the world. And is Virgin still selling records? Yes, but they have sold us more from airfare, mobile internet, and so much more. The common thread between diversified Virgin businesses is Branson. Regardless of what ultimately bears the Virgin logo, what it really sells is Branson's underdog, rebellious story. My goodness. So after standing firm on playing Rocky Balboa, Sylvester, uh, the after standing firm on playing Rocky Balboa, the producers finally came around and gave Stallone a shot with a miserly $1 million budget. Stallone, defying the odds, pulled it off under budget with the help of friends and family in the cast. After selling the script of one of the greatest rags to riches American dream stories ever told, Stallone bought his dog back for $15,000. So that makes me feel good. All in one, this brings a whole new meaning to the term underdog. Oh my goodness. And so you can find this post also in the Consumer Psychology blog. Matt Johnson is me, okay? Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a joy as always. The impact of consumers' underdog disposition on brand preferences, underdog brand biography, and brand status as moderators. Journal of Consumer Behavior. These are where these they got the information. So I thank you so much for being with me today. Matt Johnson, PhD. He's a writer, he's a speaker and professor at Holt International Business School and Harvard University School of Continuing Education. He's the author of Branding the Means Business, How to Build Enduring Bonds Between Brands, Consumers, and Markets. Thank you so much for joining me today here on Point of View. God willing, I will be here on Saturday at 7:39 p.m. with Greater Gospel Temple and Inspiration of God Ministries, and on Sunday at 7 a.m. Greater Gospel Temple and Inspiration of God Ministries, Manna from Heaven, and Saturday is the Saturday evening Bible lesson session. I thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are awesome. You are wonderful. Please continue to enjoy the remainder of your day. Thank you so much.